So today we're making a corn mash, which after fermentation can be distilled to make a corn whiskey. If this is something that interests you, an excellent book on the subject is Making Pure Corn Whiskey by Ian Smiley. It should be noted that in many parts of the world, distilling alcohol is not legal, and we encourage that you follow your local laws. Unfortunately, it is not legal for us to distill this whiskey, and unless that changes, you'll have to look elsewhere to observe the actual distillation process. I do intend to experiment with the waste products of the corn mash to find some sort of useful application other than composting, and that'll be used in a future video. 3.9 liters of filtered water was added to a pot, and a quarter teaspoon of calcium sulfate, also called gypsum, was stirred in. A high calcium content is beneficial to the fermentation and results in flavor of the finished whiskey. The pH was adjusted using dilute sulfuric acid and calcium carbonate until the final pH was about 6.0. Addition of the grains will cause the pH of the mash water to go down slightly, as will the enzymatic conversion of the starches to fermentable sugars. Without an accurate pH meter, it's difficult to measure the pH after the grains have been added to the mash water. 1,000 grams of cracked corn was weighed and stirred into the near boiling water. Once the corn mash temperature came down to about 158 degrees Fahrenheit, a quarter teaspoon of alpha amylase enzymes was stirred into the pot. This part of the mashing process is called the liquefaction phase, and it'll reduce the longer chain insoluble starches to shorter chain soluble starches. It'll cause the thick porridge-like mash to get thinner and easier to stir. "150 grams of malted barley was weighed, and once the mash temperature was 151 degrees Fahrenheit, it was stirred into the pot. The beta amylase enzymes in the malted barley will chop up the shorter chain soluble starches into fermentable sugars. This is called the saccharification phase. The enzymes in the malted barley will quickly denature and become useless at temperatures above 160 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's important to monitor the temperatures closely. The temperature was monitored and kept between 140 to 151 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 minutes to allow for the complete conversion. To confirm that the conversion is complete, we then do an iodine starch test. The sample on the left is after the malt was added, and the sample on the right was taken before the malt was introduced. If the sample stays brown like the iodine solution, the conversion is complete. If starch is present, the sample will turn black. The grains were strained and the liquid wort was collected. If the grains were kept in the fermenter, it would be called a mash, but because they were filtered out, the fermentable liquid is now referred to as wort. It's important to aerate the wort to introduce oxygen so that the yeast can replicate when added to the fermenter. In this case, because we're straining and then pouring the strained wort into a fermenter, there's enough oxygen added along the way. This is a pycnometer. A pycnometer is a piece of equipment that's used to calculate a solution's density. The 25 milliliter pycnometer has a mass of 22.37 grams, and it can hold exactly 25.08 milliliters of liquid. The total mass came to 48.65 grams, So subtracting 22.37 grams from 48.65 grams gave us 26.28 grams. Now, if we divide 26.28 grams by 25.08 milliliters, the specific gravity of our wort came to 1.048 grams per milliliter. In the brewing world, the specific gravity would be referred to as 1048. After the yeast has been hydrated with a sample of the mash, it is added to the fermenter, and an airlock containing Star San sanitizer is screwed onto the top. If you enjoy the content, make sure you like, subscribe, or follow, and thanks for watching.